As of right now, I believe President Donald Trump Democrats, the media, establishment politicians have completely overhauled our election system with universal mail-in ballots. And now we are seeing waves of tweets where people are receiving 6, 7, 8 ballots to their homes in Washington, D.C. We're seeing reporting from the New York Times that people in Brooklyn are getting ballots with the wrong names on them. I can't tell you how many stories I've gone through and how many times I've said it. The election is completely broken, and the Democrats are at fault for this. And their allies in media are at fault for this, but they keep pushing the lie. And the lie is that whenever Donald Trump says there's a problem with mail-in ballots and that our election system is being compromised, they claim Trump is lying, and now they're blaming him for the violence that is surely going to come. But here's where things are really interesting. Some have suggested that this is all on purpose. I mean, why is it that they would allow someone like me to call them out and say, look at all of these broken ballots? Why is it that media outlets would also report on the broken election system and how mail-in ballots are broken completely, but then come out and say Trump is lying about it? Both can't be true. Perhaps because the only real goal is to convince the American people that the election is broken, like I'm telling you right now. And it's because it is. And what comes from that uncertainty? Chaos and the collapse of our system. We're not going to have a president on November 3rd. Or I'm sorry, we're going to have Trump until January 20th. But we're not going to know who the next president is. And if Trump does anything to try and prevent this chaos from taking over, they say that he is cheating and lying and manipulating people. And now, because Trump pointed out legitimate concerns, the useful idiots in the media just parrot the same lies. You see, last night, I'm sorry, not last night, but a couple days ago during the debate, Donald Trump said there were a bunch of ballots found in a river. Well, he misspoke. That was wrong, okay? They were found in a ditch. And so this one journalist asks Kayleigh McEnany, where's the river? And she goes, Donald Trump, I think he was referring to the story about them being found in a ditch, absentee ballots. And then he says, where's the river, though? And she goes, I think Trump was referring to a ditch. I just want to know where the river is. The media is playing a game. They don't care. And I think the simple solution is just chaos is coming. And that's the only explanation I can give you. I don't know what will happen on November 3rd. For all we know, Joe Biden wins. The polls are all correct. People seem to think, though, that's just not possible. Even though Donald Trump is down in the polls, when asked, more than half of people, according to several different polls, said that Donald Trump is going to win. And now, following the debate, Trump's disapproval is going down, his approval is going up, but they're still saying Trump will lose. I got to show you these tweets, man. Let's just go through this. I have this story from ABC News. First, the most important. Experts call for election day preparedness after Trump's debate rhetoric stirs already heightened concerns. They're blaming the president for what they did. And that's the scariest thing. Before I get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There are many ways you can give. I have a P.O. box if you want to send me some stuff. But the best thing you can do is share this video. This is important stuff. And I like to think I'm being reasonable. If you think this is important and you want to help spread the word, then please share this video. Because if everyone watching just shared it right now, it would be bigger than the mainstream media like that. But don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Let's read. Experts call for election day preparedness after Trump's rhetoric stirs already heightened concerns. President Donald Trump's inflammatory comments at the end of Tuesday's debate have heightened the concern over the potential for intimidation and even violence at the polls on Election Day. Experts on domestic extremism and voting rights told ABC News. They're also a stark reminder for law enforcement to be prepared and for voters to know their rights. The expert said, quote, some of these groups will be listening to his false claims of fraud. And you put that in combination with his refusal to condemn white supremacists and civil unrest, it really is a very thinly veiled call for his most militant supporters to go to the polls, says Mary McCord, a longtime national security official at Georgetown University, law professor. Except Donald Trump has condemned white supremacy. And he has condemned the violence and called for law and order. They're just publishing lies, and they're blaming Trump. And the only thing I think this is going to lead to is fighting, violence, suffering, uncertainty. First, this story is from a few days ago. Nearly 100,000 defective absentee ballots sent to NYC voters. A printing error has left voters scrambling for answers and could undermine their confidence in the New York City Board of Elections. How dare you, ABC News, publish lies this egregious? Trump's false claims of fraud. Donald Trump should be careful to say impropriety and inaccuracy. But we've already seen the Project Veritas videos, people bragging about collecting absentee ballots, and they're blaming Trump. This is important, but I don't think it's going to matter. Here's a tweet from Mike Davis. Dear DC Board of Elections, you mailed this absentee ballot to my home. While I never knew this former resident, I know she's very absent. She's been dead for 7 years. Mike Davis, he is the former law clerk to Justice Gorsuch, a Trump supporter. Here's another tweet. Richie McGinnis, a reporter from the Daily Caller, chief video director, says, my official ballot arrived, along with ballots for 4 people who no longer live here, 3 of whom haven't lived here in over 6 years. And here's a photograph with nearly 20,000 retweets. 6 ballots. There's more. Here's Nathan Brand. A Washington, D.C. friend had 8 ballots sent to her apartment. 0 ballots were for the current resident. During the primary, I received a mail-in ballot to my home that was for no one who lived there, and no one requested it. Why did it come? I honestly have no idea. Popville says, quote, any idea what to do with absentee ballots sent to your address for people who no longer live there? You can write return to sender and drop it in the mail. And here we can see more absentee ballots. This is just an ongoing, I mean, look at this. Darby Wade Grant. I'm not super familiar with who Darby Wade is. It's another tweet, an election law attorney, currently NRSC. So she tweeted, I don't know who Lindsay is, but I received her ballot yesterday. One person responded, don't worry, they'll sort it out when they get statehood. The responses are rather interesting. Nick Wing, who is a verified Twitter user, media strategy at the Justice Collaborative, responded to Richie McGinnis by saying, if the insinuation is that this will lead to voter fraud, it would require being willing to commit multiple federal felony offenses, which you'd likely get caught for, considering ballot signatures are matched against voter registration. Sure, they are. Then why are the Democrats trying to remove that? That's right, Nancy Pelosi. They didn't want to outright get rid of signature verification. They wanted to add a provision that would stop a vote counter from disqualifying based on a mismatched signature. That seems to make no sense. That's our security. You look at the signature, you look at the signature on file. If they don't match, you say, no good. Why would you keep the ballot and then say, we're going to get in contact with the voter to make sure it's okay? If their signature is off, well, then their ballot is not completed properly, and it suggests that someone is trying to defraud the elections. Apparently, it's all just games to them. It's all lies. From the Associated Press, September 15th. Pennsylvania, mail ballots can't be discarded over signature. What a funny game. What an absolutely funny game they play. I don't get it. The only conclusion I can draw from stories like this, the AP, that contradict some of what the Democrats have said, these stories about voter problems from the New York Times. Look, when the New York Times says 100,000 defective absentee ballots sent to NYC voters, why would ABC News then claim that Trump is lying when he talks about fraud? Semantics? That's it? Well, Trump should have said inaccuracies and errors and disenfranchisement. Is that it? Okay, sure, fine. Trump, start saying disenfranchisement and inaccuracy. But we know what's happening, and we're watching it before our very eyes, and people are ignoring what this means. The people in the media just seem to keep playing along with this. Tulsi Gabbard has spoken out, citing Project Veritas, warning about ballot harvesting after Ilhan Omar video. Project Veritas released a video purporting to show individuals tied to Ilhan Omar illegally ballot harvesting in Minnesota. Take a look at everything I've just showed you. Signature doesn't matter in Pennsylvania. In D.C., people are getting a bunch of ballots to the wrong houses, some of whom are dead. And now take a look at this from the Free Beacon. Election watchdog finds 350,000 dead registrants on voter rolls in 42 states. And they say, yes, but who's going to actually steal those ballots and fill them out? Well, I've sent you back to the Project Veritas video. Apparently, there are a lot of people willing to do that. People who want to win and want money and think they will get away with it. I'm reminded of a story my dad told me. He's a firefighter, or was for a long time, retired. And I said something to the effect of firefighters risking their lives, knowing they could lose their life running into that burning building to save other people. And he said to me, no, that's kind of true, but firefighters don't think they're going to die. If a firefighter sees a burning building, they're not going to run in, they're going to stay out. And so I wonder, when we see stories like this, ballot harvesting, these individuals don't think they're going to get caught. They think they're going to get away with it. That's the point. You can't simply say, well, they'd have to risk committing felonies. Yeah. Listen, they're cheating in an election to help someone win. And if that person wins, they're going to have political allies who can get them out of jail even if they do get caught, or their friends and family will be taken care of. That's why they commit crimes. People don't go out committing crimes thinking they will get caught. That's why they do it. And so even Tulsi Gabbard is willing to call this out. My respects to Tulsi Gabbard. Project Veritas showed us a man giving cash for a ballot, saying they would fill it out, not to worry about it. Other witnesses saying they looked at the ballots. One, I believe, was a city councilman in Minneapolis saying, I looked at the ballots and they were blank. And now you have all of these ballots popping up in D.C. Now, I understand Pennsylvania is not Washington, D.C. So I don't know if signature verification is going to matter in Washington, D.C. But I'd be willing to bet the Democrats will sue over this. That's right. Here's what you're probably going to see come election night. Donald Trump will win. They're calling it the Red Mirage. On election night, Trump will landslide. They'll then claim we have to wait for mail-in ballots. They'll then start finding all the ballots in all of these, key places like D.C., Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, where they're claiming in the polls that Joe Biden is doing way better than Donald Trump, which just seems to make very little sense. I wonder, do I trust my gut or do I trust the polls? Now, the polls were wrong in 2016, but only by a couple points. And this is because they were underestimating the non-college educated white voter. They didn't accurately predict how many of them will be coming out for Trump. And thus, Trump surprised them. But the polls now are off by Trump is down 7 points in some of these swing states. But it doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. Things have only gotten worse in terms of the culture war. Even my progressive friends are complaining about cancel culture. And Trump has proven he can make the economy work and he can do well. The circumstances of today would suggest there's more of a reason for people to secretly vote for Trump than ever. Yet they're telling us that Trump is losing. They're also setting up this broken election system, and they're rubbing it in our faces. So could it be that the polls are just fake? They're planning on cheating, and the polls are a primer so that when they do cheat, they'll say, but no, look, the polls matched, right? Off by a little bit. I don't believe any of it. I've seen the video from Project Veritas, and I've seen their own reporting. And Trump isn't the one who destroyed our election integrity. So I almost feel like this. If the Democrats want to advocate for universal mail-in voting, and now the system is completely broken, well, then they should be disqualified. You should not be allowed to advocate for a rule change unilaterally that benefits you, and then when the system breaks, you benefit from the chaos. If you're the one who broke the system, you should not be able to win. But there's no point in even saying anything like that, because the reality is we're not going to have a winner. I mean, they're telling us outright. They're not going to announce the results for some of the mail-in ballots for like a week. And if Donald Trump says anything, Twitter and Facebook have already said they will ban or flag his content. So what does that mean? You will only hear from the mainstream media. I wouldn't be surprised if they start deleting my videos. They wouldn't allow me to talk about it. I wonder why it is they're even letting me say this to you now. And maybe the only real result that they're looking for is that, and I mean this in terms of the establishment, those who want to see Biden win, and I'm not alleging a conspiracy, I'm saying we've seen the bias in these companies. It's individuals acting alone in favor of their candidate. They want the chaos and the uncertainty because they're worried Trump actually will win. And chaos and uncertainty and violence are a better outcome for many of these people than Trump winning again. And it's an avalanche, right? Take a look at this story from the Inquirer. Memory sticks used to program Philly's voting machines were stolen from election warehouse. So the voting machines are potentially compromised. We don't know exactly to what extent, but someone stole the programs. Mail-in balloting is compromised, and they're blaming Trump for it. They're saying Trump is the one who is inciting violence. When Trump says he wants poll watchers, and his poll watchers were kicked out, they say he's inciting his supporters to intimidate and get violent. Yet when the left calls for poll watchers, they say, good job, and they clap. WRAL, this is some good news. Federal judge strikes down change to NC absentee ballot witness requirement. Why would the Democrats want to take away a requirement for a witness? If you wanted to fill out an absentee ballot, someone had to fill it out as a witness. Someone had to be there watching you do it. Why would they try to weaken the integrity of our elections? Because they're cheating. That's the only conclusion, I suppose. Canvassers demand answers after 72% of Detroit's absentee ballot counts were off. From the Detroit News. I don't even want to bring this stuff up because you know it. We all know it. We've seen the stories from the primary ballots. 1 million votes here, 100,000 there, 70,000 there. It's just all completely broken. And now we can see this. Alex Thompson tweets, Biden camp 2 weeks ago. We don't need to door knock, and people don't want us to knock on their doors. Biden today. This weekend we'll dispatch several hundred newly trained volunteers to knock doors across Nevada, Michigan, New Hampshire, and Pennsylvania. Alex Thompson says this is a huge reversal for the Biden camp, which attacked Trump camp for knocking DNC in August. Quote, Trump campaign is risking the lives of their staff, the lives of voters, and risking becoming a super spreader organization during the middle of a pandemic. They're accusing Trump of doing what they themselves do because they are cheating. If Trump tries to canvass, they say he's making the pandemic worse, and the media just supports Joe Biden. Then, as soon as that dies down, they go and do exactly what they accuse Trump of doing. There is ballot harvesting. These are people seeking out only votes from their political faction. There is fraud happening. Is it widespread? Well, the word widespread is subject to interpretation. But there is impropriety. There are bunk votes. There are blank votes. There is election chaos. And these mainstream media outlets aren't telling us the truth. But Donald Trump is doing well, and perhaps that's one of the reasons for it. Newsweek says Donald Trump's disapproval rating falls 6 points over 3 months. We're also seeing in the aggregate, take a look at this. Trump's approval rating has been steadily climbing in aggregate polling. This is not just one poll. Trump's approval rating has recovered to 45.5, which is actually very high for his presidency. Spike just around February when he first got elected. And then he averaged around low 40s. Today, Donald Trump's approval rating is 45.5, putting him slightly above average for his entire first term, which should suggest good news for the president. And on the economy, Trump is doing remarkably well, 51.1%. All of these things would suggest that Trump should win. And that's why they're telling us on election night Trump will win. And that's why I believe the game is being rigged. Trump has, there's every bit lose. Mail-in ballots are going to change the game, even though we're seeing mail-in ballots are completely broken. They then say if there's any chaos, Trump is cheating. He's trying to steal the election, and he's rigging it and intimidating voters. They're doing everything in their power to delegitimize the election and then blame Trump for delegitimizing the election. Over on Twitter,